Welcome to the second talk of the KUASIA webinar series for the fall 2020 semester. Today's presenter is Dr. Altay Atlı, who is a well-known expert on Turkey's economic and political relations with Asian countries, particularly with China. Dr. Atlı got his BA degree from Boğaziçi University, MA degree from Deakin University, and his PhD degree from the Department of International Relations at Boğaziçi University. He taught courses on the global political economy and Asian political economy at several Turkish universities, including Koç University, Bahçeşehir University, MEF University, National Defense University, and he is currently teaching at Boğaziçi University. Atlı is also the producer and host of the TV program titled Yükselen Asya, Emerging Asia, which is broadcasted by EcoTurk channel. His talk today is titled Turkey, China, and the Belt and Road Initiative, Expectations of Increasing Economic Interdependence. Welcome, Altay. The floor is yours.
Burak, thank you very much. It's a great pleasure for me to be with you guys and with our audience today here. Of course, it could have been a much bigger pleasure if we could have met in our campus today, but given the circumstances, probably this is, well, the best we can do, but life goes on and so do we. Okay, so my title is today, Turkey, China, and the Belt and Road Initiative. I'll be talking about the Turkey's position vis-a-vis the Belt and Road Initiative, the BRI. And so have a look at my subtitle. It's Expectations of Increasing Economic Interdependence. So let me start with two major arguments right away. I'll be talking about expectations. So the BRI is for Turkey more about expectations than real actual outcomes on the field so far. And since we say expectations, so we expect it to grow in the future, but expectations. The other keyword here is interdependence. So in contrast with, well, with, let's say, a dominant discourse on Turkey getting more and more dependent on China, I'll be suggesting that actually what is what is being generated here is kind of an economic interdependence between Turkey and China. But don't forget, as the international relations literature informs us, economic interdependence, complex interdependence is always asymmetric. Always one party depends on the other more than the other way around. So, but for today, my two keywords will be this. When it comes to Turkey and the BRI, expectations and interdependence. Okay, let me start. Oops, okay. So here, let me start by briefly going through my arguments here, then I'll be getting into details. Well, to start with, Turkish economic relations with China are improving. We'll see the details, but in overall terms, there is an improvement. But in the political realm, there are more ups and downs. There's more volatility on the political side. So this is one thing. The BRI is opening up new, well, sorry about the typo. It's opening up new opportunities. But as I said, it is yet to take off in Turkey. So these are what BRI has brought to Turkey is more expectations other than, I mean, real existing, I mean, materializing opportunities. From a Turkish perspective, it is yes, it's more about expectations that I said, and it is more about interdependence rather than only a dependence on behalf of Turkey on China. And of course, we will have to talk about these things, about the whole thing within our new framework, which is brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. So at the moment, most of the projects, most of the investment and infrastructure projects within the BRI all around the world have been have come to a standstill. Uh, and well, actually, the Chinese government itself has officially announced that, because I heard the Minister of Foreign Affairs Wang Yi saying that they had to stop most of the projects because of the limitations brought about the pandemic and the necessary measures that host countries are taking against the pandemic. But of course, this is the case at the moment. But we probably need to discuss. Probably need to observe closely how the pandemic will affect the BRI and the projects within its framework in the longer term. Okay, so these have been some of the takeaways. I wanted to start with them at the beginning, and I'll be getting into closer detail now. Okay, now when it comes to Turkey and China, look, I mean, wherever you are, you can be in the academy just like we are doing now. It can be an academic gathering or a discussion at political level, or a business meeting, a gathering among the business representatives and so on. It doesn't matter wherever you are. When you talk about Turkey and China, when you talk about Turkish economic relations with China, the first thing that appears on the agenda is the very simple and naked fact that Turkey has a large trade deficit with China. So, and considering the fact that Turkey has a current account deficit, China happens to be one of the major sources of this deficit. Okay, but some interesting points to take away from this chart, actually. So you can see since 2016, Turkey's imports have been on a decline. Okay, this is one thing. And the other thing is, yes, there have been some kind of some kind of movement in exports, but they are still at a very low level. Now, I think this decline in exports over the last 4 years can be associated with many things, but mainly related to to changes or to changing dynamics within the Turkish domestic economy itself, like the currency problems we have been having and so on. I mean, with with a currency losing its value fast, probably, I mean, not probably, it's definitely has a significant effect on imports and how you can afford the imports. So, okay, a decline over the last 4 years, but mainly related to Turkish domestic economy-related issues. And one more thing, actually, which is very important, but you cannot see it now on this graph, okay? But nevertheless, it's very important. So when we think about the imports and the deficit, of course, I think that we need to think carefully about it, because we need to distinguish between different kinds of imports. Well, yes, the chart tells us that, I mean, we are importing much more than we export to China, okay? It's around for every dollar worth of products that we are exporting to China, we are buying back $7 or $8 in return. Okay, but what do we exactly buy from China? Okay, so this is important. So it's not only cheap products, it's not only cheap consumer products that we are buying. So, for example, when I'm making a phone call, sorry, you can see it like, okay, let me see like that. My iPhone. So on the back of it, it says designed in California, assembled in China. So this is my iPhone is also included in this chart because it's imported from China. So is it a Chinese product? Well, it's definitely made in China, assembled in China. But is it a Chinese product? That's something else. And what else do we buy? Also, our import from China also includes intermediary products and capital goods. So things that you need for your own production here. Turkish companies are buying machinery from China, are buying parts, components, intermediary products, which are then used for final production in Turkey. So in a sense, actually, Turkish imports from China are contributing to Turkish production and in return to Turkish exports. So therefore, we shouldn't really make a taboo out of imports from China, but try to understand what is imported, what can be replaced actually, what can be what can be replaced with local production, and what else is, what other things are actually creating added value for the Turkish economy. So it's not a, this picture is not a total evil which we need to get rid of, but and a complicated picture which needs to be understood carefully. So this is the first thing that that we see when we look at Turkey's economic relations with China. Okay, and for a long time, so we have been thinking, and when I say we, this is the Turkish government, Turkish business community, well, entire country. So we have been thinking like until the mid first decade of the 2000s, we were thinking like, well, okay, we should increase exports, but this is not easy. So maybe we should do less imports. So it was mainly more protectionist tendencies that were defining our reaction to the picture, that picture I showed you before, the deficit. Okay, but now there's a more rational approach. What Turkey wants is, at the moment, is not closing the deficit because that is not possible, simply. But what Turkey can achieve is to have a more balanced economic relationship with China. So instead of talking about closing the deficit, nowadays we talk about balancing the relationship. And this can happen through investment. So you can see some quotes here on the left-hand side. Uh, on the top of the page is a quote from an official China paper by the Turkish Minister of Trade, and below it's a quote from a diplomat, from someone from the Minister of Foreign Affairs, whom I interviewed myself. But both of them are saying the same thing. We need to get more investment from China. And we are talking to the Chinese about this. And well, this is not surprising or anything. This is economics 101. If you have a deficit on the current account, you need to balance it with a surplus on the capital account. So if you are paying more money to China than you are receiving from China, so you are on the minus on the trade side. So you have to establish a plus, meaning you need to get more capital from China in terms of investment and so on. Okay, yes, well, this is the idea now, and lately we have seen a few things on the Turkish side. So one thing that is very important for me is improving public-private partnership when it comes to constructing the relationship with China. There is a lot of dialogue and cooperation. For example, the Ministry of Trade has now another China paper, a China action plan covering 3 years, the coming 3 years, and that was created with a lot of input from the private sector and so on. And more capacity building on the Turkish side with respect to relations with China, but still more progress is needed. And also, we have seen China mentioned in several places in the action plans issued by the Turkish government, the Turkish President's Office, to be precise, in August 2018. For example, for the Minister of Trade, China was designated as one of the 4 priority destinations. And also Ministry of Trade has made it a priority to use local currencies in the trade between Turkey and China. The Ministry of Treasury and Finance has, defined China as a major, as a well, target for external borrowing. Turkey is a country which depends on external borrowing. So, in order to diversify the partners and the instruments, China can be a good China with its all, capital accumulation can be a good partner. And the Minister of Culture and Tourism is has defined it as a priority to attract more tourists from China to Turkey. Now, in all these areas, it's not, these are not only statements in the paper, on the action plans at the theoretical level, but there have been a lot of work which is put into these things, also with the participation of the private sector. And lately, for example, I was a part of a working group on tourism at TÜSİAD, one of Turkey's largest business associations. So that workshop was solely about, how to improve our tourism relations with China, meaning how do we get more tourists from China. So it's not only the government, a lot of work, a lot of energy is getting invested in these areas. Okay, all right. Now, but yeah, we need to get more investment from. So not we need to, but the plan is to get more investment from China. And when you look at the investment relations between China, so you can see the beginnings of this. Now, these figures that you see on the screen are from official sources, but on the left-hand side, I decided to take it from the central bank, the Turkish central bank. But the Turkish central bank is well, this number 175 million is only a part of the total Turkish investment. I will say it's closer to 1 billion mark, but official central bank data only records capital officially registered as crossing the border going from Turkey to China. But foreign investment also includes retained earnings, reinvested earnings in that country, and also investments done through third countries and third parties. So they are not recorded by the central bank. So, I mean, you should take it like, like around 1 billion, probably close to 1 billion, let's say. For the Chinese foreign direct investment in Turkey, I have this amount, this number from the Chinese embassy in Ankara, and this is closer to the, real figure. And you can see some of the Chinese companies on the right-hand side which have invested in Turkey. And for example, the largest investment is Costco Pacific, which has bought a 65% stake in a container port near Istanbul called the Kum port in Ambarlı. So for 900, I think, $40 million. Alibaba.com bought Trendyol, a Turkish digital trade platform, for 700 something million dollars. ICBC Bank of China have started operations in Turkey, and so on. So this is also increasing. Okay, now when it comes to the Belt and Road Initiative, which aims to improve connectivity between China and Europe through Central Asia, Middle East, Turkey, and so on, improve. Excuse me. Okay. When it comes to that, the Belt and Road Initiative, which is actually a relatively new project. I mean, it started as an idea in 2013, and it's only recently that it's, that concrete investment on the field is increasing. But for Turkey, this is important because, and again, I have some quotes from President Erdogan and the former chairperson of TÜSİAD, you can see they are both focusing on the geographical position of Turkey. Well, Turkey definitely aims to capitalize on its strategic geographic location. We have all, I mean, I myself, I have grown up and I'm 46 years old. When I was a child in the primary school, they were always telling us that Turkey is a bridge between the East and the West. I think we are yet to capitalize on this position linking several emerging markets, linking different continents, and so on. So being a part of China's Belt and Road Initiative can be important in that sense, and it can also be a tool to facilitate investment flow in infrastructure projects from China to Turkey. So you can see both the government in the person of Erdogan and the business community in the person of TÜSİAD chairperson. Here, as you can see, their quotes are very much welcoming and enthusiastic on the opportunities that BRI is supposed to bring. Let's say so, because as at the beginning, as we said at the beginning, it's more about expectations. So you see, read the quotes, they are about expectations. Okay. And by the way, this picture on the right-hand side is from the first Belt and Road International Forum in Beijing 3 years ago in 2017. And you can see President Erdogan to the left of President Xi Jinping. On whose right you can see Vladimir Putin. And this picture was taken with a lot of excitement in Turkey because, for many, this picture showed that here you can see that for China, Turkey and Russia are the most important countries in the project because the way the leaders stand next to each other, the protocol that is designed there is never random. It tells you something, and this tells us that Turkey is important. Okay, you can also take it like that. All right, but of course, how do you do that? Connectivity, fine. Turkey capitalizing on its, geographical position, good. But to start with is, it's about connectivity, by the way, Belt and Road, but not only physical connectivity. These days we hear a lot about digital Silk Road, the health Silk Road. I'll come to that. But at the core of the initiative is physical infrastructure, logistics infrastructure, transportation infrastructure. So the thing is, Turkey already, I mean, with or without BRI, independently from the BRI and the Chinese, Turkey has a focus on infrastructure development, particularly transportation and logistic infrastructure. I mean, these are, vital requirements. A well-designed, a well-formulated, efficiently working transportation and logistic infrastructure is an absolute necessary, a vital necessity for sustainable development. This is vital for Turkish sustainable development in the long term. One thing. So improving our infrastructure, physical infrastructure within our borders is one thing important for our own economic development. And second, it's also important for Turkey's aims to become a major hub for international trade. So two dimensions. It's important for domestic economy, and it's important for Turkey's external economic relations. Okay, and as you can probably also observe with all these projects being completed and so on, the Turkish infrastructure is growing. It's growing, and it is expected to grow further. And railroad sector is the predominant driver of transportation infrastructure industry, because one important reason for that is for sustainable development in the long term, you need to improve the share of railroads in both cargo and passenger transportation. Turkey is too much dependent on land transportation. I mean, through land roads, through highways and so on. Karayolu taşımacılığı in Turkish. But what we need to do is to improve the share of railroads in both cargo and passenger from this is below 10% at the moment. The aim is to improve it to at least to 20%. And to increase the total length of Turkish railroads from 12,000 to 35,000, but not only railroads, because it's all about actually these days combined transportation, connected or intermodal transportation. So you need actually all the different kinds of transportation, and you need to be able to combine them, integrate them. Sorry, not combine, integrate them. Okay, so think about, for example, a factory in, let's say, Gaziantep. Okay, very good factory producing high quality stuff, whatever their products are, and they are aimed at exports. So in order for this company, for this factory to export its products, first of all, the factory needs to be connected to highways and to railroads so that they can carry their goods. And then these railroads and highways, whatever, they need to be connected with seaports. Okay, in the seaports, you need to have enough capacity for processing the containers and storing them. And then, and your container port needs to be, deep enough and developed enough to be able to host large container ships. Today, the largest container ship in the world can carry 27,000 containers, 20 TEU, 20 foot equivalent containers in one single run. Okay, so well, therefore, I mean, if you have the factory and you can produce the best of the best stuff products, I mean, if there's no infrastructure, how can you sell them? You cannot. So this is why this is infrastructure improvement is important. And of course, there are targets set for 2035, and that requires not only know-how and technology, but that also requires finance. Okay, and this is why international cooperation is important. And China is already a player in this sector, so it's not so they are not newcomers or anything. They were involved in Ankara-Istanbul high-speed railway, not the whole thing, but parts of it. They are also included in parts of Ankara-Sivas high-speed railway. On the banking and finance side, there are now, we see loans opened by Chinese banks or Chinese finance institutions like the Chinese Development Bank, Chinese Exim Bank, the Sinosure, the insurance, trade investment insurance company, and so on. We see increasing loans by them, not only by them, but also by the China-led Asia Investment Infrastructure Investment Bank lately. So, well, there's an improving finance side to it as well. That's what I'm saying. And Chinese companies looking forward to opportunities in Turkey, a growth sector because of all these big plans to improve infrastructure in Turkey. And there are also some specific projects in the pipeline, like the $35 worth Kars-Edirne railroad railroad project. But this is yet to materialize. I'll come to that in a second, actually. Because, I mean, the two sides have been talking about this Kars-Edirne for like more than a decade now, but nothing has happened. I'll come to that. And yes, and well, for Chinese companies, this is opportunities. And at the same time, China continues to increase its overland connections to Europe. And for China, it's part of its what they call high-speed railway diplomacy. Okay, a major export item for China, a major item in its international relations, high-speed railways. So, okay, now when I say expectations, what has been done so far is actually a number of agreements have been signed. Okay, so for example, there is this, uh, agreement on harmonizing the Silk Road economic belt and the maritime Silk Road with Turkey's Middle Corridor initiative in 2015. Also, other agreements like again 2015, same time, same place, an agreement for cooperation in the field of railways. This included Kars Edirne project and a land transportation agreement in 2017. So these are establishing a good platform on which to build. Okay, but as I said, so far only few has been built. Kars Edirne. Before 2015, the two governments had signed another similar agreement in 2010. 5 years happened, 5 years passed, nothing happened. They signed it again. So Kars Edirne, and I asked the Minister of Trade, some colleagues at the Minister of Trade, so why is this not happening? I mean, Kars Edirne, is it because of the money, like finance, or what is it? And I was told that actually there are differences on how Turkey and China views it, and China is making some demands which cannot be accepted by the Turkish side due to Turkish laws. Okay, so for example, China wants to have an exclusive agreement. I mean, without a tender or something, so which is not possible under Turkish law. Things like this. So there are still barriers, real barriers against uh, uh, progress with concrete projects. But anyway, so you have the framework here. And as I said, it's not just railroads. It's about combining everything, and ports, seaports are important here. And the BRI has a maritime component anyway, the maritime Silk Road. So Kumport, as I told you at the beginning, is the largest Chinese investment, and this is a part of the BRI. This is a part of the maritime Silk Road. Okay, and this is by far, this is so far the largest Chinese investment in Turkey. But Chinese investment is welcome, and when I say welcome, so I say this by looking at the discourse of the government, of the ministries, by what they are saying. For example, President Erdogan has himself said this in that meeting in Beijing in 2017, the picture I've shown you, okay. He said that, this port projects are very important and we welcome foreign participation in them. So three ports in addition to Kumport, and actually the Minister of Transportation has an initiative called three major ports in three seas. Three seas. Black Sea, you have the Philios project, which is almost completed now, and that has a hinterland and a large ecosystem attached to it, serving the western Black Sea region of Turkey. Mersin port is the largest port. Mersin International Port is the largest port already in Turkey. But now the idea is to develop another port and perhaps to do it in Taşucu. Taşucu is, far from Mersin city center, but this is there's already a port there. But Taşucu is the closest point project. Chandal is north of Izmir, and it's north of Izmir, and actually, um, uh, so it has started. So there was a tender and everything, and it has started, but because of finance problems and bureaucratic barriers, not much could be done. So at the moment, if you go to Chandarlı, you will see only the jetty is in place. Jetty in Turkish, I mean, jetty is a new word I learned, so let me share it with you. It's the Turkish word is mendirek. Only that is in place. So this is usually shown as a potential investment destination for the Chinese firms, and in this region, the largest Chinese investment is actually in the port of Piraeus in Greece. Okay, but the thing is, port of Piraeus alone is not enough to absorb the entire Chinese trade potential. So because China, the port of Piraeus has already reached its geographical limits. It's very close to the Athens city center, and there is also a lot of opposition to further enlargement. So the idea here is that Chandarlı can complement, not substitute, but complement Piraeus and be a major part of the logistics network in the Aegean Sea. Okay. And Mersin port, I think whatever port you have in Mersin, I think that will be very important, because when the reconstruction of Syria begins seriously, after the conflict is over, after the war, so the port in Mersin will be very important, because the Syrian port itself are, they don't have the capacity, or they are damaged, like Latakia. The port of Beirut was, there was an explosion, and it wasn't enough anyway. The port of Haifa, where the Chinese are building a new terminal in Israel, is, well, it's improving, but political problems. And so Mersin will be very important. So, okay, there is a question here. Let me take the questions, and please, write down your questions, and I'll be taking them one by one as we go, instead of leaving everything at the end of our session today. So the question is, would you think China's work in Turkey is a part of its expansion in political influence, as the way it does in Africa and Australia? Well, Australia is a difficult question, because Australia is now completely at odds with China politically. Like there is a significant, especially over the last few months, between Australia and China. China is, I mean, the other day there were some announcement by the Chinese government, with very harsh words against Australia. So, of course, economic influence comes together with political influence, if you ask me, okay? But it depends on the context. So Turkey is not really like Africa. It's also not like Australia, okay? But the way I see it, just give me a second, sorry. I need to change something on my screen. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to see better. Okay. Okay. Sorry. So what I'm saying is, yes, economic influence, economic interdependence brings about political influence, but there are limits to it. And I think in Turkey it's very much limited. Another question, but it's about 5G by Berat Şenyerli. Merhaba Berat. I will come to that, because I will say a few words about the technology side. So I'll take this question then. Well, which is now actually the next thing. So now there's also a talk about a digital Silk Road, and a digital Silk Road in the sense that China will do, Chinese companies will do not only physical infrastructure projects along the route of the Belt and Road, but also digital infrastructure projects, and especially in areas like 5G, where the Chinese companies like Huawei has certainly an advantage over competitors around the world. And the thing is, just like Turkey needs to improve its infrastructure, physical infrastructure, Turkey also needs to improve its own technological capabilities and reduce its dependence on the outside world. Okay, so I think, guys, this is I mean, this will be a defining feature in our post-COVID world. Okay, you need to be self-sufficient as possible, and in areas you need to be self-sufficient in many different areas that are vital for the economic sustainability. Technology is one of them, energy is one of them, infrastructure is one of them. And in areas where you are not self-sufficient, to the extent you depend on the outside world, you need to be diversifying your resources so that you are not vulnerable. Okay, Bashar Polat is asking a question. I will come to that too. All right. So the thing is here, what Turkey needs to do is to improve its technological capacity and to be as much as self-sufficient as possible. So 100% self-sufficiency in technology doesn't exist in the world. This is uh, it's only a theoretical extreme, but you can improve it. And here, if you want to improve your technological capacity, there are two things. You need to improve your own, domestic sources, your institutions, your education, your human capabilities, human skills. Opening up research centers, opening up new engineering schools, and so on. This is one thing. And the other thing is, of course, you need to, get the technology. I mean, to learn from the others who already have it. So I think, therefore, FDI enabling transfer of technology and co-production possibilities with China is important. And so far, we have seen examples of it. Now, when you come, for example, to 5G, uh, 5G, let me go to Berat's question here. Berat is asking Turkey's position on 5G developments, especially vis-a-vis Huawei's position in Turkey's 5G networks. Greetings from Germany. Now the thing is, well, 5G is important for Turkey as well because 5G is going to change a lot of things. It will change through like artificial intelligence, through Internet of Things and so on. So you need to catch up with the developments in 5G. And Huawei is already active in Turkey, and Huawei has already started together with the test trials on 5G in Turkey, inside Turkey. Okay, so Berat's question, yes, well, Turkey is very much willing to work with Huawei, unlike some of the countries which are banning Huawei from their own 5G networks due to national security reasons. Okay, guys, I think, yeah, I'll come to the questions at the end because there are so many questions coming now. Let me finish my presentation. So answering them as I go didn't turn out to be a good idea. So please, you write down your questions. I will come to each of them at the end of my presentation. Okay, let me continue. Now, if you, for example, think about Huawei itself, so what Huawei does is in Turkey, well, they sell digital infrastructure to Turkish Telecom, to all the GSM operators, and so on. But there's something else that they are doing. They have invested in technology in Turkey. So they have started a research center with Istanbul Technical University. They have opened up a research and development lab, I think one of the two largest labs outside China. And there are now 600 engineers, mostly Turkish engineers, working in that lab, and so on. And I think they have also recently signed a new cooperation deal with the Ministry of Technology and Industry, Turkish. So this is the value of Chinese investment. So if it's only selling us stuff, if it's only selling us the digital infrastructure, the digital goods, this is one thing. But if it's about investing in Turkey's digital infrastructure and Turkey's technological capabilities, this is another thing. I think this is this is what is needed by Turkey. And it's not only telecommunication. You can see this in defense industry, in energy, in many different areas. But here the idea is, okay, to generate as much value added for the Turkish economy as possible. If it's about buying final product, well, okay. But more important is to, to learn from the technology, to learn to co-produce, uh, like those engineers working for Huawei now at the research lab. Well, they are getting something from the newly developed technologies in China, 5G and everything. And for example, later on, when they move in their career, they leave Huawei and perhaps they start their own company. They will be using their acquired skills there. Okay, so I see it as a value added for the Turkish economy. Okay, now here is the question. Then fine. I mean, Turkey depends China. Turkey expects more from China. Let's say so, for its infrastructure, physical infrastructure, technology, and so on. But what do we mean when we talk about interdependence? How does China depend on Turkey, and to what extent? Well, the biggest asset that Turkey has in this relationship is again Turkey's location at the heart of the BRI. And Turkey is, I mean, whether you like it or not, whether the Chinese like it or they don't, Turkey is offering the most feasible route among the alternatives and natural connection point between Europe, Middle East, Caucasus, and Central Asia. So Eastern Mediterranean and the Aegean Sea as an entry point to the European markets. Yes, certainly they have invested in Prius, but Prius on its own is not enough. China needs to, if you ask me, combine it, complement it with Turkish ports. Syrian reconstruction, when it comes to that, I mean, how can you be as China active without using Turkish, Turkish ports, Turkish production facilities, and so on? So Turkey's location is important. But then again, Turkey is also a large economy, a large market itself. It's a large market for Chinese products and a large market for Chinese investment projects. And this is why, other than the Chinese firms whose logos I have shown you, I mean, these companies have already invested in Turkey. A much higher number of Chinese companies have like liaison offices or representative offices in Turkey, looking for opportunities. Okay, looking for investigating opportunities, on the field rather than doing it remotely. And customs union with EU is a big opportunity for the Chinese too, because think about all the Japanese and Korean investment that came to Turkey in 1990s. Okay, mostly they were motivated by this because a Japanese, like an automobile factory in Turkey with Japanese investment, let's say, we have plenty of them. They can produce here and they can sell not only in the Turkish market but also to Europe without paying tariffs. Okay, so this can be an advantage for the Chinese as well. So, and okay, you can say these are not really creating dependence, but I will nevertheless insist that this is looking at the overall, economic footprint of China in the region. I will say these things make China very much dependent on Turkey for its future plans in this region. Surely there are problems. The Uyghur issue remains a conflictual point between the two governments. It requires mutual understanding between the two sides, which is sometimes very, very difficult, especially given all the news that we are getting about this, detention centers, the so-called education camps, and so on. This is an issue where the Turkish population is also very sensitive. Uh, Therefore, this remains is a serious issue. And as I told you in the beginning, for China's overall operations in the Middle East, and especially in post-conflict areas, not only Turkish geographical proximity, but also Turkish experience in these regions, both on behalf of the government and the business community, is an asset for China. And don't forget, I told you at the beginning. So here is my, note of caution. Always, economic interdependence is an asymmetric thing. It's always one party depending on the other party uh, more than the other way around. Okay, and the Chinese, I mean, being aware of this dependence, the Chinese are also willing to improve the economic relationship. These are the words by Ding Li from last year, 2019 actually. He was talking about doubling the relationship in three areas: doubling China's imports from Turkey, doubling Chinese investment into Turkey, and doubling the number of tourists coming to Turkey. But of course, they are probably not going to materialize because less than a year after he said these things, the COVID pandemic happened. So these targets are likely not really likely to be achieved, but it's nevertheless important to show, how the Chinese officials view the relationship. Okay. Now, of course, we need to rethink everything in the face of the COVID pandemic. So, first of all, the BRI, as I said, has come to a standstill. The projects have stopped because of, and there are significant challenges in the implementation with reference to both finance and construction. There are challenges on both sides, not only in finance, but also, real physical construction. And and if we think about the future, I mean, will everything continue from the point they stopped, at the same level, with the same intensity, with the same resources, and so on? Probably not, because domestic economic problems in China, like elsewhere around the world, can lead to a significant reduction in resources allocated to BRI projects. Because our priorities are changing. The world's priorities are shifting away uh, from physical connectivity to health services, digital connectivity, local food supplies. So how will BRI respond to that? Is it going to be able to respond to them fully by focusing more on digital Silk Road and health Silk Road rather than physical construction projects, physical infrastructure projects? We'll see. And BRI relies very much on Chinese funding and global supply chains centered around China and so on. These things are also undermined at the moment due to the pandemic. So, to what extent Chinese funding will be, available? To what extent these global supply chains feeding into the Belt and Road Initiative will remain intact? We will see. And the other thing is the very concept of economic interdependence is now with suspicion. Because economic interdependence, we used to view it as a good thing. Do more. You depend on each other, you get something, you create value together, and so on. But today, and thanks to the pandemic, we see that economic interdependence makes you vulnerable. The more you depend on the others, the more fragile you are, the more vulnerable you are. So what matters is self-sufficiency rather than dependence. So therefore, not just Turkey, but all the countries will rethink depending on China, their dependence on China. Okay. And but anyway, but let me conclude with a few remarks. Then I will move to the questions, hoping that yes, we do have time. Now, okay, we have the trade deficit with China, and we want to balance it by getting more investment. And investment makes sense from China makes sense not only in terms of its effect on our balance of payments, balancing the current account with the capital account, but also foreign direct investment from China is expected to help Turkey to close its gaps in technology, know-how, energy sufficiency, physical infrastructure, digital infrastructure, and so on. So BRI is seen as a useful instrument. We are enthusiastic about it, but it is yet to take off in Turkey. So far, the only tangible project that has been completed is the port project, the Kum Port project. As I said, even though it's in an asymmetric manner, there's an interdependency rather than a one-sided dependence. And there are some challenges. As I said, differences on the Uyghur issue. This is one thing. More on top of that, mutual perceptions at the societal level are still not very favorable. Both sides viewing each other with suspicion. And let me switch to this. Okay. Political instability in Turkey's region, in the Middle East, and so on, forced policymakers to divert their energy in Turkey elsewhere. And most of the times, you have the plans, you have the ideas, but bringing them to life requires institutional capabilities, which is often not the case in Turkey. Insufficient institutional capabilities. Until recently, the Turkish embassy in Beijing was working with one ambassador plus 3 diplomats. Turkish embassy in the capital of the People's Republic of China with only 4 people. So now it is, I think it is now around 20. Still not mostly in the international media, we get a response like, a statement like Turkey's axis shifting, Turkey is moving away from the West, and so on. But we shouldn't see it like that. It's not a binary choice, okay? It's not black and white. So it's not like Turkey is getting closer with China, and instead of the West, economically, we will work with China. No, I mean, these are not replacements or anything, okay? So getting closer to China economically is, if you ask me, making sense in terms of Turkish efforts to diversify relationships, economic relationships, in a globalized world, okay? So you need to be able to work with China, but also with Europe and also with the United States at the same time, because it's a global world. So when people say, talk about Turkey's axis is shifting, I mean, even the word axis is so Cold War, right? It's so 20th century Cold War. So this is Cold War mentality where you had to make choice. Turkey had made a choice in the Cold War, but that world is over now. So, and you can also see, look at this graph, look at Turkey's exports, imports, but also investment relations. Still, you will see that the weight of Turkish external economic relations is lying with the West, and especially with Europe. 50% of Turkish exports are destined for Europe. 70% of all the foreign direct investment in Turkey is from Europe. For China, this is less than 1%, okay? So this is the picture. So I think, those binary statements like Turkey getting closer to China, Turkey depending on China, and Turkey is leaving the West, and so on. When you look at it from an economic perspective, they don't really make sense to me. Okay, guys, so this is it. So let me take this opportunity now. I still have some time, and okay, I will go to questions. I have a number of questions. So let me see. Okay, three. Yeah, three questions from Burak, then Bashar, two from Bashar, and John has a question. Okay, so let's start with this. What are your thoughts regarding cryptocurrency in the context of digital BRI? Of course, cryptocurrency is a new trend, but it's, if you ask me, is very new, cryptocurrency. But when it comes to digital BRI, probably in the future we'll see more things about cryptocurrency. But from our Turkish perspective, it's more about digital payments at the moment. Okay, so it hasn't, for Turkey at least, it hasn't come to that stage because it's so new for Turkey. I mean, that's for me the reason. But at the moment, there's a lot of work, for example, done between Turkish banks and Chinese banks to bring Chinese digital payment systems to Turkey. Okay, I think after that, perhaps the next step can be regarding the cryptocurrency. But I think first we will see more developments on the digital payment side. I mean, when I say digital payment, but in normal currencies, right? Like when you go and buy something, you pay what, with credit card or cash? No, this is, I mean, all the Chinese are paying with their mobile phones. So that's what I mean. Okay, Bashar has another question. Bashar Pot has another question. What are the expectations or requirement of Chinese digital companies like Tencent, Alibaba, ByteDance, and so on, to invest in TR in the way of data center? Now, all these companies are actually closely following Turkey and I myself did some consulting for ByteDance, for example. Okay, ByteDance, that was actually 2 years ago. After that, they took some steps in Turkey. But back then, ByteDance was asking me, because you know what ByteDance does? They do this TikTok, this short video thing. It's social media. Okay, they were trying to understand legislations, regulations, and so on. And now the investment have started. Alibaba did investment. They bought Trendyol and so on. But so far, it's not has come to a stage where they will invest. I mean, where they will make, let's say, okay, they buy stakes in the company, but they didn't come to a stage where they will establish data centers or that kind of infrastructure, digital infrastructure. So I think they are they are interested, but they are still trying to understand the ecosystem in Turkey in this area. Some Turkish companies that I know are interested in establishing partnerships in China with Chinese companies to create data centers, to create, for example, to provide cloud computing systems, cloud capacities, and so on. And there are even, Bashar Polat, there are even ideas circulated within Turkey, like, for example, countries in Turkey's neighborhood, like Iraq, like Azerbaijan. Global cloud companies have not entered there yet. Okay, so there are now ideas among the Turkish companies to build partnerships with the Chinese, so that they can take advantage of these markets. But again, very much at the beginning stages. John Cardenas is asking if whether after RCEP, which is signed last week, if whether Turkey can be a potential country for investment for China as a distribution point to EU. Well, I think this is something that we can sell to the Chinese. I mean, the customs union and the opportunities that can arise out of that. Uh, but the thing is, of course, in the near future, we will probably see, and we have already started seeing this, uh, Chinese investment, especially in the manufacturing sector, to prefer like closer regions, the near neighborhood, ASEAN and so on, where they still have low-cost labor possibilities, unlike Turkey. And RCEP is, of course, an attempt, to improve the business environment, improve the opportunities within the area. Therefore, probably the focus will be in, and add to them the COVID effect. Probably the focus, investment focus for the Chinese companies will, come closer to home for them. But of course, I think Turkey has a potential for ASEAN, for China in the near future. Uh, but we need to do more. So we need to work harder on that. Okay. More questions. Brock's questions. Brock Graf, my colleague, has a number of questions. Then we have also have questions by Professor Belgin Şanakça. Okay, Turkey has not been very. Brock is asking. Turkey has not been very successful in attracting FDI that has potential to improve R&D capacity in high value-added production. Do you think Turkey will be able to attract such investment from China in the future? Well, of course, as I said, this is about expectations. I mean, Huawei has started that in the ICT sector, right? And ZT is now following. So these are okay on the IT sector. But the thing is, it's not really about China, it's about Turkey. So being an attractive, well, China has the capacity, China has the companies like Huawei and so on. But when it comes to attracting, FDI, the business environment in Turkey is more important. Fine, there's this widely circulated, or let's say also accepted idea that the Chinese are doing business everywhere, unlike the Western countries and so on. They don't really care about the business environment. They can take greater risks and so on. But at the end of the day, this is business. I mean, I have a close view. I have a very close hand idea on how, for example, Huawei is working, and they all demand improvements in Turkey's uh, business environment, and this includes many things, like from the rule of law to anything you can add to that. I refer to the Chinese embassy data on Chinese investment in Turkey. Do they provide sufficient granular detailed data on Chinese investment in Turkey? No. Do we, as researchers interested in BRI, have a data problem? Yes. So these are the short answers. So unfortunately, I mean, so the thing is, when I told you in my slide, this is data from the Chinese embassy, this was just a number shared in a meeting by the Chinese ambassador himself. Okay, just that. Well, if you need data on Chinese investment or any kind of foreign investment in Turkey, of course, you can always go to the central bank, their website. But as I said, their data is not only about the entire investment stock. It's about capital crossing the border, officially crossing the border. So there are international agencies, some consulting companies, think tanks who are trying to collect data, but through anecdotal, anecdotal, I don't know, well, they look at newspaper articles and so on. They collect them and they try to figure out, how much investment is there. Other than that, it's not really difficult. Do we have a data problem? Certainly we do. Another question by Brock is, China is continuously making direct investment abroad to meet its growing food demand. Yes. Chinese farmland farmland purchases in Africa and Latin America is a popular subject of discussion. Some of the BRI countries like Kazakhstan is receiving investment from China. Do Chinese investment is planned to make direct investment in the agricultural sector in Turkey? Are they currently buying, renting farmland in Turkey? Not that much, not that I know of. Let's say so. Now that hasn't, that's not really happening at the moment. If there are some small minor examples that that they, that really don't appear on the on the media, or also not if there are examples that are also not entering the agenda of our business organizations or the companies, I don't know about them. But so far there are no such major investment. The only major Chinese investment in Turkish agricultural sector are in actually in animal fodder, I think, animal feed, and they have something there. And recently we hear also about other things related to the higher stages of the food production chain, like processed food and so on. But so far, no major investment that I heard of, no major investment that I came across. On the Turkish side, there's a big focus on selling the produce to Turkey, okay? Sorry, to China. Agricultural products and food products to China. But there are serious obstacles there. One thing is they are subject to some standards and everything. But the thing is, if you want to sell, like for example, some kind of fresh agricultural product, food, vegetable, whatever, or dairy products or meat, the Chinese agencies need to come to Turkey. They need to inspect the facilities and so on. Then Turkish government need to sign an agreement with China on that, and then China needs to certify those Turkish producers who fulfill the criteria in the agreement. So far, we have Turkey has started doing this in. Exports have started without problems in only a small number of areas, like pistachios, like sour cherries, lately dairy products, and lately also white meat, like chicken meat and so on. But Turkish focuses more on that. Belgin Hoca is asking, I was wondering that what Turkey could do in reducing the asymmetry in its relations with China. I know you said Turkish location is an asset, but location alone was not enough to get Turkey admitted to the EU. Well, Belgin Hocam, I think, attached to the geographical location. So, when I said, so I'm thinking really carefully, and I'm doing a lot of thinking about, what's going to happen in Syria next. And this is an example. And I'm following what the Chinese companies are doing in Syria. Okay, so I have come to the idea that Turkey will be more valuable. In your words, Turkey can reduce the asymmetry in its relations with China. So things like this, Turkey can capitalize on them. For example, recently, I got some news because I'm also doing some consulting business. I came across this thing, like a major Chinese company interested in buying a cement plant, an already existing cement plant in Turkey's southern east. Okay, so this is probably related to Syria. Looking at Chinese priorities and the reconstruction of Syria is a priority, definitely. So we can probably take some steps to improve, let's say, the importance of Turkey in that sense. And definitely, if you ask me to come up with more examples, probably it's limited. Like Syria, I'm thinking of, but this is a politically loaded issue. Nobody knows what will happen there. Perhaps Turkey will be definitely totally out of the picture in Syria and so on. And Piraeus, the Aegean and Eastern Mediterranean logistics network, and improving improving Turkish assets in that network. Well, again, there are probably some limitations, but you're right. Location enough was not enough to get Turkey admitted to the EU. But we are not talking about the same thing. EU is about many things. EU is not about trade and logistics. EU is about values. EU is about integration at many different levels. What we are talking now, when it comes to China, is more about doing projects and making money together. So, well, that was too rough, maybe, but that's what it is. We are not talking about not even close to anything like an EU kind of integration with China. Another question by Belgin Hoca is thinking about Turkish relations with the West. How do you see this influencing its relations with China? Do you think good or normal relations with the West could serve as leverage as Turkey building its relations with China? Hocam, I traveled many times to China, and usually they were for academic purposes. So I had the chance to talk to many Chinese academics and so on. And I can say, from what I get, from the impression I get from there, well, yes, good or normal relations with the West can be an asset for Turkey, but not in the sense that, like, again, as I said in my presentation, as Turkey making a choice, Turkey making a binary choice, Turkey choosing China and therefore leaving the West and so on. Well, the customs union is a pragmatic example, a practical example. Okay, and I think, and this is also what I get from my talks with our Chinese colleagues. The more Turkey is linked with the West, the better it is for the Chinese. And especially when you think about all these economic links. Abdullah Dumangöz, a former student of mine, is asking, is there any attempt, plan, or intention by the Turkish government to collaborate with China, specifically in the artificial intelligence field when we consider China's position in AI? Abdullah, not really. Not really. Well, of course, there are AI-related plans in Turkey and so on. But so far, a direct AI-related cooperation with China is not there yet. What we have is, of course, in 5G, and yes, Huawei is already, involved in that. But again, I can tell you from my observation with business circles in Turkey, especially technology companies in Turkey and so on, there is a lot of interest in collaborating here. And for example, I have recently come to an idea trying to establishing a link with China so that we can send Turkish engineers who are working in this field to those leading Chinese companies in China so that they can work there and learn there and then come back to Turkey. But these are very much at the idea level, okay? So no real attempt, not even a real plan. Now ideas are circulating, let me tell you so. But as I said, when it comes to 5G, yes, Turkish Telecom has already started, doing something together with Huawei company in 5G. Veysel Hocam, Veysel Tekdal, our previous speaker in this webinar series has a question. And thank you for your kind words, Veysel Hocam. It seems that some expectations for attracting Chinese finance to Turkey have not realized, as in the case of attracting investment to the Turkish Wealth Fund. I'm wondering how you see the precaution of Chinese finance institutions, if any, regarding making financial investment in Turkey. Thank you. Thank you for this excellent question. All the questions were good, by the way, but this is something that the finance link between Turkey and China is there's a lot of disinformation, there's a lot of noise going around when it comes to Chinese finance in Turkey. Now, I'll start by trying to explain what is happening, what exists. Now, we have recently seen agreements, loan agreements between Chinese banks and Turkish banks, and between Turkish banks and Chinese, other institutions like Chinese Development Bank, Chinese Sinosure, Exim Bank, and so on. Okay, usually these are like 3-year, 4-year term loans around $400 million, and usually they are coming with strings attached, like to be used in projects in the energy sector, in construction sector. Okay, so they are very much Belt and Road related loan facilities. So this is happening. A number of Turkish banks have signed this, and now other than banks, Turkish companies have directly started making loan agreements with Chinese banks too. Recently, Turkcell has signed an agreement. This is also happening. Another thing that is happening is the bilateral swap agreements between the currency swap agreements between the two central banks. So what this is about is, and Turkey has signed similar agreements with other countries. I know Russia, I know Qatar, I think Pakistan. I'm not sure about Pakistan. But okay, they do it. So what happens is the Chinese central bank sends us Chinese money, Chinese currency, renminbi of a certain amount, and we send them the Turkish lira equivalent in return. Okay, so we swap the two amounts, which of equal value. And this is usually done for 3-year terms. And after 3 years, you get your money back and they get their money back. But there's no dollar or euro involved. So they send us Chinese money. We send them Turkish money. So what happens then? What is supposed to happen is that this renminbi, this Chinese money coming to Turkey, will be given distributed to Turkish commercial banks, who will open up renminbi-dominated, renminbi-valued loans for their clients. And who are supposed to get them? Well, Turkish companies doing business with China, buying stuff from China, and so on. So this is called rediscount credits, reeskont kredileri. Okay, but in practice, there's not much happening because there's no demand for that. So only a fraction of the trade between Turkey and China is conducted in renminbi or Turkish lira. It's mostly done in dollars. So therefore, there's not much demand. But the thing is, this bilateral swap agreement has been renewed for 3 times. It's still there. Okay, so the money is still changing as well. From the Turkish perspective, especially given the current circumstances in the economy, with the value of the lira going to historical depths, this money is helping to reinforce the foreign exchange reserves of the central bank. Okay, they enter the foreign exchange reserves. So rather than companies through commercial banks getting this money and using it in their interaction with in their trade with China, this is more about supporting Turkey's foreign exchange reserves. Okay, so this is what happens. So it's not really a lot of money is coming from China, and Veysel Hoca's question is also not about it's about money not really coming to China. I repeat the question. It seems that some expectations for attracting Chinese finance to Turkey have not realized, as in the case of attracting investment to Turkish wealth fund. Then again, it's the same thing. It's the same thing like investment in the technology sector and so on. So the Chinese companies are interested, and hence ICBC has invested in Turkey. Bank of China has invested in Turkey, and Bank of China, unlike ICBC, They don't have branches. They just do this project financing kind of banking. Okay, so they are interested, but they are still at an wait and see mode, if you ask me. So they are waiting for better. I mean, they believe in Turkey's economy and its importance for them. So they believe in the opportunities that might arise in the near future, but more like they are at the moment at a more cautious stage, waiting and trying to see the opportunities, trying to understand the opportunities, trying to see if there will be an improvement in the business environment and so on. So yes, again, with respect to financial investment, I think we are at this stage, and we'll see what will happen in the future. So, but I expect, an improvement in this area. So, of course, that will be parallel to the improvements in the Turkish domestic economy itself. But okay, let me put it this way: if there are improvements, and to the extent there are improvements in Turkey's domestic economy, the Chinese will be very responsive to that. That's a proper way of putting it. Okay, well, I think that was it. Thank you very much. So if there's no other question, that brings my presentation to an end. And I hope that it was useful, or if I could answer the questions properly. So thank you very much.
So I would like to thank you very much for this very detailed, realistic, and insightful presentation, and also answering almost 15 thought-provoking questions. So it has been a very lively discussion. So I also want to thank all participants for asking these interesting questions. And so I would like to, I hope we'll again see each other in other KUASIA webinars. Have a good day.
Thank you very much, and everybody, well, take care, stay safe, and next time, hopefully, let's meet on the campus, hopefully.